Good afternoon. Welcome to the second part of CSS preprocessor. So I prepare another metaphor for you guys. In this video, we will discuss the last part for CSS processor and the initial part of single page applications. So uh, I'll start with the metaphor. Uh, CSS processor is also like a kitchen. So all that we have discussed here um, is just features. So if you can see first how processors works. Second, different types of CSS per processor, and third, features of CSS preprocessor. So we deal with the most of our discussion with the features. Um, the features of CSS can be thought of as like kitchen again. So I'll start with the modules. So a math module, a chef measuring ingredients, representing calculations. So chef uses uh, serving spoon to calculate how much ingredients he will be using. A color module, a chef organizing a spice rack, adjusting saturation or brightness. So for color module function, uh, a chef it used to organize the saturation and brightness of our dressing uh, food that is served. List module, a chef looking at a recipe book, reading stored values. So a list, it allows us to look on a list of ingredients, recipe book by reading its stored values, functions, the head chef giving instructions similar to reusable code, and then inheritance using extends, two chefs using a shared sauce from one big pot, because when we use at extend for inheritance, it is reliant on a one big pot sauce. For include mix-ins, another chef making a customized sauce for each dish separately. So this is more anti-fragile because you are allowed to keep both sauce independent to each other. Nesting a neat kitchen with labeled drawers and stations for organizations. So I'll start uh, with functions. Uh, so functions, it's a classic construct for reusable codes. And then within functions, there's a module. There's a color function, define the saturation and brightness. String, determine the length of string. Convert the characters of a string to uppercase or lowercase. Mathematical, find maximum or minimum of several numbers. Generate random numbers. List, values can be read from list. Map, change the values for keys. Add or remove value. Multiple keys can be merged. Selectors allows to process CSS selectors. So remember in the previous video with the basics of CSS, the CSS selectors and rules. Implementing custom functions. So key points when implementing a custom functions. Avoid if you do not know what custom functions is, it's like in programming language. We start with the function definition and then the parameter and the function body. So we can create our own logic or own function and then reuse it throughout our code to make our system more structured and maintainable. So key points, avoid using the sum as a function name to prevent conflicts with SAS math. So I will provide an example, guys. Let's run this magic git commands. So let's compile this. Let's run npm. So this is our first example. In the previous video, we stopped with here at use as color. Use rules must be written before any other rules. Let's remove this. So we're encountering an error, but we will discuss that later. So here an example of uh, using the module. We need to use at use and then the code and the actual module that we need to use, like color, math, or string. So we define the color, this, and then the background color, and then within that we mix the two colors. And then we define the width. We calculate the width using math that maps inside the parentheses, and then here we convert it to lower case, because that's what string modules do. So for these modules, we uh, recommend not to use this globally and instead define a module, because SAS developers or CSS developers will probably or warn us not to that this may be this global function uh, may get obsolete in the future. So it's recommended to define this in this way. So that's the example of using those modules. So avoid using sum as a function name to prevent conflicts with SAS math. So here is an example of that: sum dash values and then numbers. Make sure to put three dots in order to uh, uh, make sure that you are allowed to iterate over a number list. So we use each loop here to iterate on the number to calculate the sum. So we use that with 180px because we know that that's the addition of those three using the function of this, because this function sum values will add these three values inside. So this is just declare declarator, and then that will be converted to CSS declarator. So index.js, we got an error here for a moment. Let's run another terminal, guys. cd. Oh my god, that's wrong, guys. So we need to install SAS. Maybe that's the reason why we're getting the error. Hmm. So use rules must be written before any other rules. So it means that we need to bring this at the top, because it says that must be written before any other rule. here. So it was converted now. Use descripted function names like some values to prevent ambiguity. So it's also important to use descriptive values here that says directly what the function means in order to avoid the confusion. So use values when calling the function inside loops, ensuring proper argument spreading. So whenever you're using loops, you need to use that values parameter here when you're iterating in a loop. So that's it. Nesting. So for nesting, it's simpler. We don't need. I'll show you an example, guys. Here's an example of nesting, guys. So for UL, we define that as the font family is font. LI, we can nest that because these are is the feature that is missing in CSS that should be included because of the structure of the elements. Remember in the index.html we can nest. So for this CSS doesn't support this nesting, but SCSS support this nesting. So this is another feature of SCSS inheritance. So and inheritance and mixins. When using at extend, SAS groups all extended selectors into a single rule. This is because at extends works by merging all selectors that use the same base class into one instead of duplicating styles. So for inheritance and mixins, there's two types of inheritance and mixins. Inheritance kind of misleading because the at extent that it use doesn't actually inherit something. So like I'll show you an example, guys. So mixins actually represent the inheritance better than at extent because for this example like this, we define a button base declarator, button special, and let's see. So sorry, that's not the example. Hmm. Okay. So, basically, you can think of this inheritance and mixins like a metaphor. So, for kitchen metaphor for that is inheritance is like a one big sauce used by all of our customers. So, if that one big sauce uh, uh, replenish, then we're fucked, right? Because there's no sauce anymore. However, for mixins, that's independent for each customers because the customer can customize their own sauce aside from the base sauce that they can use. So that's the main idea, guys. The important here is the main idea. So I'm not gonna. I wasn't able to provide you the example for inheritance, but for mixins, this is the example of that. When we save this, sorry, this is actually the inheritance. So at extend, this is the converted inheritance, guys. As you can see, it was merged. Button base, button subnet, button special declarator was merged into one rule, into one CSS rule. So. that's it. But for at include, um, it will um, it will add this base and then customize to this CSS rule. So let's try to do that. Uh-huh. CSS variable instead. No. So let's just accept that for now because that's not as important. Um, when using at ex okay, key issues with at extend. Here's the key issue. That button special and that button submit don't get independent copies of that button base. Instead, they are merged into the same CSS rule. If that button base is removed, both that button special and that button submit lose all inherited styles. It doesn't work well across files or within at media queries. B. At include copies the styles directly into each class that uses it. This makes it more flexible and reusable. Key benefits of at include styles are copied directly so each class remains independent, works inside out media queries and across files, safer than at extend as removing a mixin doesn't break multiple selectors. So we will introduce the single page applications. So uh, in the next video, I may provide an animation video for this, explaining the metaphor for us to better understand this. But we're trying to simplify how the full stack development works, right? We're mastering the basics, uh, or uh, you can like think of it as the we're starting with the principles. I would like to think it like uh, the the book of Lee Kuan Yew. Actually, that's I think he introduced his book using the basics. The title of the start is Getting the Basics Right because I think whether it's building country or building knowledge base from our career or from the things that we want to learn, is important to get the basics right, right? So uh, one of the most important features in this context is the fact that such as application. So single page application is basically consists of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So we are trying to create that an application using those three technologies that is on par with mobile applications and desktop applications. Um, So one of the most important feature in this context is the fact that such applications are implemented with individual HTML pages through which a user navigates via hyperlinks, but instead are implemented as a single page called a single page application. So it's not implemented through hyperlinks, where anything that you click on the page is a link. It's not that that's not how it works in single page. Instead, it store the data in the memory of the browser for JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. And then this page is controlled using the underlying web technologies, and only certain views are presented to the user. So, since data is stored in the browser's memory in JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, every request on the page requires a full page reload. So that issue has been solved by three like the uh, modern frameworks. So we will start with the most important, which is React. React supports you in implementing single-page application by providing a number of tools. Anything React does not do can be included via external libraries. You can implement HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to create single-page applications, but you must solve a whole series of standard problems and thus virtually reinvent the wheel again. So this is the three most important language, uh, Angular, Vue, and React. React is actually a library and it's not a framework. Angular and Vue is a framework. Angular can be designated as a structure uh, and organization. Vue, um, it's easy to start with, uh, but it doesn't have as much structure. React is freedom and chaos. So you're free, but it could be chaotic. Angular Focus has a structured file uh, directory. So it focus more on the structure, overall structure of the application. Later, we will discuss structure of React further. So for setup, npm create app and then the app name, for example, blog app. So that's what we will type here in the terminal when we create. So create React app is also created by Facebook. React is created by uh, Face- Facebook. Create React app is like an automated module that allows you to get started with developing with React. Uh, uh, Pretty easy. So if we let's say we can create this blog up. Oh my god, CD. So here, if we create that, it will create three directories: src, uh, public, and then uh, root directory. Create React app. You just need to proceed. Yes. So these three directory root no, we can also use a template. So a template is a language that we will use to design our React app into that language, such as TypeScript, JavaScript, uh, let's see, Angular, I believe. But yeah, that's the template. So basically, we're designing an app to that specific to be implemented to that specific language. Remember, TypeScript are used to reduce errors. It provides an automated error handling with JavaScript. So um, for root, we have a package that JSON and package dash lock.json. We will discuss this in details with our node or server side section videos in the next videos. Um, Package.json overview. This is where the you install the dependencies of the application, such as the needed libraries. Package lock.json, we will discuss that. For public, uh, sorry, so you run the npm start and in the root directory. So there's three directory um, that is created. So you run npm start in the root directory. So you run this, for example, oh, for example, this is the root directory desktop, and then inside desktop, there is an src and a public directory. So you run the npm start in desktop because that's where the root directory is. So uh, that's the key points. And then if you run that by default, it use watch mode. Anything you change on your create React app will automatically be reflected on the browser. And by default, it use localhost 3000 port. If that's not available, it will use another available port. For SRC, for public directory, it has index.html, and there's a div element in that has root value for the ID attribute. So these index.html are used by the React component to dynamically change the browser page. React inserts the application into this container. Note, the idea behind server-side rendering is that single-page application is not first built in the user's browser, but is already prepared on the server side. So remember the single-page application that is used by HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It reloads the app every time uh, you click or you perform some logic on the browser. However, for server-side rendering, the idea is that the app is fully built on the server before it transfers it to the browser. So, and then React use dynamic rendering. We will discuss the algorithm behind that in the next video, but for basically it doesn't reload all the entire app. It's just reload the necessary changes. So, for example, it doesn't rebuild the entire house. It just like one accessories in a house. Instead of rebuilding the entire room in house or in entire house, they just move out the furniture that you don't or add the furniture that you need. So that's the basic idea with the dynamic rendering of React. Optimized JavaScript files are loaded. So the JavaScript are loaded after this initial index.html. So the first JavaScript that are loaded is the index.js. So in this index.js is in our src directory. Maybe we can see it now. Oh, where's that? So it's still developing. So we have now a folder, but yeah, so let's open that folder instead. We have now create React block up in desktop. Let's find that. Here is our folder. So we have created that. See, this is the root folder, guys. And then node dash modules the created. Oh, so there's only root directory package.json. So it wasn't created. In the next video, this is not as important because we will create an actual app with this. So it's just an introduction, guys, for the next topic. Renderer, so there's renderer and reconciler in React. Renderer are dependent on the platform. It's a platform specific. So for example, renderer for this for the index.js for this index.js, the specific client, you could say, or the specific customer on the restaurant that it targets is the browser because of this document that get element by ID. So this is the renderer. But if your target client or customer in a restaurant, let's say mobile app or a desktop app, so that's a different. You may need a different. You need a different renderer. So renderer, it's platform specific. This is the one that calculates the new version of the application that's presented to the user. Note JSX. We use JSX for React. It's a syntax extension for JavaScript that allows you to write HTML strings directly in JavaScript. Strict component turns on additional checks and warnings for React applications to highlight potential sources of errors. And then in the next video, we will discuss app component 3, with, which is this reconciler. The app component 3, it start with the app. So this is the entrance for the um, src directory, but as you can see, it called the app component. So app component in React is function and class component in JavaScript. So it's another way to define a class or functions in React. So that's it, guys. Um, Again, sorry, I know it's a long video. Basically, we just discussed the features of CSS preprocessors. So it's kind of like hard to understand at first because it kind of like a programming language itself because it has the programming language features such as variables, inheritance that makes our code more maintainable. And then a single page application, guys. We start with the React we discuss the React language and the files within it. So yeah, we are getting deeper on our full stack development journey. And uh, thank you for watching. See you on the next video.